Are there any fans of Meghan Markle in tonight?
No.
Oh, hang on! There is one lone hand has raised
Subversive.
up here. Actually, that is one more than I expected, I have to be honest.
Damn! If you hate the royal family that much, why do you keep your royal titles? Why do you keep calling yourselves the Duke and Duchess of Sussex? Why would you do that if it's not just to make millions and millions of dollars? And playing the victim as you do it is frankly nauseating.
Oh my gosh, I work so hard.
Shut up, bitch!
When the stakes are this high, doesn't it make more sense to hear our story from us?
What do you mean the stakes are this high? Who do you think you are? Other than a latte-munching imbecile living in luxury in California while the rest of the world's a cost of living crisis, moaning and whining about an institution which gave you the titles on which you now trade millions of dollars.
Meghan Markle, Prince Harry, and Piers Morgan walk into a bar. The bartender asks, "What'll it be?" Meghan says, "I'll have whatever gets me the most attention." Harry says, "I'll have what she's having." Piers says, "I'll have the truth." They threw him out immediately. Now, that sounds like a joke, but if you've been paying attention lately, it's not that far from reality. Because every time Meghan Markle speaks, the internet explodes. And every time that happens, there's always one guy who doesn't hold back, Piers Morgan.
But Meghan fancies herself as a future American president. And to be fair, the campaign slogans, well, they write themselves. Make America hate again, build back bitter, or maybe just lock her up.
So let's start with the claim that launched 1,000 headlines. Meghan Markle saying the British public and media hated her from day one, and that racism was the driving force behind it.
My face was everywhere. My life was everywhere. Tabloids had taken over everything. Very different to be a minority but not be treated as a minority right off the bat. Obviously now people are very aware of my race because they made it such an issue when I went to the UK, but before that, most people didn't treat me like a black woman.
Sounds powerful. Emotional. Hard to argue with, right? Yeah, until Piers Morgan stepped in and basically said, "Hold on a second, this doesn't add up."
Harry and Meghan's romance, engagement and marriage were all greeted with ecstatic joy by the British media, the public and the royal family that they've all now abandoned. That's the truth. Not Harry and Meghan's truth, but the actual truth.
He called out Meghan and made it crystal clear. The British media, the royal family, the public, and everyone was on board with this marriage. Everyone was happy. There was no hate mob waiting at the gates. And he didn't just say it and move on. Oh no. He came prepared. He pulled out many newspaper cuttings surrounding the event, and not even one of them portrayed Meghan in a negative light.
Look at the front pages there, which is when their engagement was announced.
Yeah.
Where's the racism?
Do you remember that was before she actually said that the institution was racist? And that's my point. How institutionalized racism works is the minute you dare say that the institution is racist, everyone piles
stop
on.
shouting.
That's what happens.
But you accept there's no racism in those media pages?
Because that was before she said that the institution was racist.
Actually,
after that moment, that's when everyone decided to pile on.
Actually,
and
what happened
as
is
a woman.
people began to pile on when she started having $500,000 baby showers in New York and flying back on the Clooney private plane. They started having a pile-on. When they used Elton John's private plane like a taxi rank whilst preaching about carbon footprint. They had another pile-on when they had other huge extravagant events they went to, and then when they're preaching about poverty on their Twitter account.
And that's exactly what Meghan does. She plays the victim while being the biggest hypocrite in the room, preaching about poverty while spending millions, and weaponizing racism just to stay relevant? That's a new low, even for her standards. And you cannot expect not to be papped and not be featured in newspapers when you are marrying into the royal family. And let's be honest, Meghan, you love attention. Wasn't that your entire point in marrying into the royal family?
I hate Meghan Markle. She's like, I don't want attention. Bitch, you die for attention. That's what you want. I don't think Harry make her calm. I think attention makes her calm. I'm on Netflix. Go away, Harry. Go away. Go to your room.
And when people started seeing you for who you really are, you started crying victim. Well, no one's buying it, Meghan. We've all seen how fake you can be.
Remember that clip of Meghan once showing us how she could cry like that at the drop of a little tarnished tiara? Remember that? She could do it like that.
So house can still be home base.
Now make yourself cry. Yeah. Oh, I can do that.
so well. Oh my God, it's crazy. You're like, Meghan, one tear, left eye, go.
She could do it like that. Just bear that in mind when you watch it. Did you get that one?
But of course, we can't talk about Meghan without bringing up the interview. You know the one that had the entire world talking. Because if playing the victim was a sport, this was Meghan's Olympics. And she went for gold. She claimed that Archie was refused the title of prince because of his skin color.
In those months when I was pregnant, all around this same time, so we have in tandem the conversation of he won't be given security, he's not going to be given a title, and also concerns and conversations about how dark his skin might be when he's born. The idea of our son not being safe, and also the idea of the first member of color in this family not being titled in the same way that other grandchildren would be.
Now that is a bold claim. No names, no proof, just drop the bomb and let it burn. Classic Meghan. But Piers wasn't about to let that one slide. He fact-checked everything and obliterated Meghan right on the spot.
Meghan Markle said that there was a decision taken by the palace to stop Archie being a prince based on his potential skin colour. That is completely untrue. There's been no discrimination against Archie in terms of being called a prince because of his skin colour, because he's not entitled at the moment to be called a prince. Just the rules of the palace.
Here's the thing Meghan conveniently forgot to mention. Archie not getting the prince title had absolutely nothing to do with his skin color. It comes down to a rule that King George V put in place back in 1917, over 100 years before Archie was even a thought. The rule simply states that the title goes only to the children and grandchildren of the monarch. Archie, as a great-grandchild, didn't qualify. A rule that existed long before Meghan swooped in. But instead of doing a basic Google search, she sat on Oprah's couch, looked into those cameras, and made it a race issue. Girl, the British Library exists. Just take a look at this clip. Her hypocrisy will shine brighter than the camera she invited to her private life.
But she calls them Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet. Well, hang on a minute, Meghan. I thought you didn't want to be a royal. You've stopped those children from talking to their cousins. The only other royal people in the UK, they don't have contact with them. You've just given them titles that they will never fully understand because they don't have any mates who are princes and princesses.
And if you thought the Archie story was bad, Meghan wasn't done. We all know that every event and interview is a PR strategy for her. Even her marriage was one. In multiple interviews, she kept telling the story of how the Archbishop of Canterbury secretly married her and Harry 3 days before the royal wedding, like it's some kind of fairy tale. But like everything else with Meghan, it wasn't true. It was a lie, staged to get media and public attention. And Piers pulled the curtain back on this one too.
One of the things they said was that the Archbishop of Canterbury had secretly married them in their back garden 3 days before the wedding on TV. So we did a quick check, because I thought, that can't be right. And we did a quick check. It turns out that had the Archbishop of Canterbury secretly married them in their garden, he would have broken the law and been sent to prison. So I thought, yeah, old Princess Pinocchio's off on a good one here.
After this, even the Archbishop of Canterbury himself came out and confirmed that the legal wedding was on May 19th, 2018, the royal wedding. I didn't marry them 3 days ago in private. I just signed the wedding certificate, which is a legal document, and I would have committed a serious criminal offense if I signed it knowing it was false. Meghan really had a man of God come out and defend his criminal record. Only Meghan can do that. And while Meghan was busy rewriting history, Harry was busy being completely and utterly blindsided. Because somewhere along the way, Meghan made this man believe he had found the second coming of Princess Diana in her. That tells you everything about how deep the manipulation runs.
So much of what Meghan is and how she is so similar to my mum. She has the same compassion, she has the same empathy, she has the same confidence. She has this warmth about her.
It's It's incredibly painful to hear that Harry compared her to Diana, the most loved woman in British history, a woman who gave everything to others, who genuinely sacrificed herself for the world. And Meghan, a woman who ghosted her own father and rest of the family, is apparently cut from the same cloth. But don't take my word for it, because Piers said exactly what we were all thinking.
I accept that there will be people around the world who fundamentally disagree with what I've done and how I've done it. But I knew that I had to do everything I could to protect my family.
Grandma.
Nothing says protecting your family like putting your kids in a reality TV series, does it? Having known both women, Princess Diana and Meghan Markle, I can say with absolute certainty they had nothing in common whatsoever. I couldn't think of two women more different.
Meghan just wanted Harry to believe that she was all about family, love, and protection. In fact, she even said it herself in many interviews.
I want them to have the fullness of life and family and support in a way that we have had and that we do have in many ways. And also, I want them to be able to carve out the life that they want for themselves.
Beautiful sentiment, Meghan. Truly touching. There's just one small problem. What happened to your family values when it came to our own father? But Piers had some thoughts on just how much Meghan actually values family.
When it comes to compassion and empathy, where's Meghan's been for her own father? She completely disowned him. He just suffered a stroke a few months ago. Miss Compassion hasn't even bothered to call her father to ask how he is.
Meghan's father, Thomas Markle, had a stroke and publicly begged his daughter to reach out. She never did. Not a call, not a message, nothing. But sure, family is everything for her.
Throughout her life, and all her family, her father, her ex-husband, her ex-friends, they've all been cut out of her life, right? And it's an interesting observation.
So let's count. Her father, her ex-husband, her ex-friends, Piers himself, all cut off, all discarded the moment they were no longer useful. Meghan doesn't do family, she does cast members. And when you're done playing your role in her story, you get written out. Permanently. But while she's busy cutting everyone off, she's also been busy building something else. Her image. And oh boy, does she take that seriously. Like, more seriously than you could ever imagine.
Of all the revelations I've seen about Meghan Markle recently, the one from the Harper's Bazaar interview, it's one of the quotes in there, which is that I'll read what the Harper's Bazaar journalist said, that when I enter, the house manager announces Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, even though we appear to be the only other two people in the house. Yeah. I mean, there's that moment alone, right? The utter delusion of this person.
The house manager announces her name with the title, in her own home, to a journalist, who is the only other person there. Let that sink in. This is a woman who left the royal family because she couldn't handle the spotlight. And she has a butler announce her like she's the Queen of 7 Kingdoms.
I don't think anyone in the world knows that Meghan Markle has eaten Jack in the Box and loves it.
It's so funny, too, that you keep saying Meghan Markle. You know I'm Sussex now.
And here's the real hypocrisy. Both Harry and Meghan barely visit Sussex. They abandoned their royal duties. They moved across the world, but they are still the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Funny how that works, isn't it?
I've spent more time in Sussex than Meghan and Harry have in the last 2 weeks. So, actually, a month. But they're never there, but they've got these titles which are given to them. That's really all I mean about, they trade off Duke and Duchess of Sussex, the royals, to make themselves incredibly rich.
At the end of the day, Meghan Markle is a genius, truly, because only a genius could leave a royal family, lose a father, ditch a country, fire an archbishop's reputation, fake a wedding, exploit a dead woman's legacy, abandon a title's responsibilities while keeping the paycheck, and still somehow convince half the world she's the victim. Truly, the greatest performance of the 21st century. Oscar's loss, honestly.